Hey guys, I'm Jody,
I'm JT,
and we are the Bowtie Baptist.
coming to you again from Jody's shed with our beautiful backdrop.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this one out of the way. Scotty, this is gonna be the true test. 2 recording sessions in a row. Let me know if you hear an echo or not, and then we'll know if it's the shop or the schoolroom.
Did he talk to you about it today?
He did.
Oh, did he?
So, he said that the echo wasn't as noticeable. So
Oh, good.
I don't know if it's the mics or the room, but
We're going places.
we'll figure it out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But this week's episode is all about Annie Armstrong and her offering. So,
I was excited to do this because I didn't know much about Annie Armstrong, and we got a lot of compliments from our Lottie Moon episode.
yeah,
It's kind of bringing some light to some lesser known facts. So
Yeah.
I was excited to do this one.
yeah. And tell you what, before we get into that, let's go ahead and get the dad joke out of the way.
Okay,
All right, what you
this
got?
week's
It's your turn
dad
this week.
joke. Okay. Which one do I want to do? Okay. So do you have a boat? Do you have a boat?
Yes. Or
Okay.
am I supposed to say no?
No, you can say whatever you
Okay,
want.
yeah, I have a vote.
Good. I also know a guy that has a boat.
All right, so remember, every week we're going to be throwing a new dad joke at you to get. How did you word that earlier before we started recording? Make you some friends, impress people.
No, impress your friends.
Yeah,
There you go.
impress your friends with our weekly dad joke.
we need a like a well, I don't even know what you call it, like a little side, like a jingle or something.
The dad jokes, yeah. And we know some people that play instruments.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So when we see you at church this Sunday, we're going to be asking you.
Make us a jingle.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that, again, before we get into Annie, our website is now live. It is very, very basic right now. It has
looks great.
Like a welcome.
You did a great job.
I appreciate it. It's literally you click and drag, so it's kind of hard to botch
it
up.
You don't have to say that.
I know, but I want to be honest and
it does look good. I was impressed.
So we're still working on that. You've got a couple of articles that you've got in mind you're going to be working on. I've got a couple I'm going to be working on. We have one that is out that actually just kind of hit me out of the blue. With what day did I text you about that? I think it was Wednesday actually. Because we had RAs that night, getting ready for RAs, and we had our spotlight on WMU service this past Sunday, and just all the compliments, not about how the boys looked, even though they were sharp.
They were sharp.
With their new uniforms, RA uniforms, which are not necessarily the WMU standard issue uniforms, but if you go back to about the 70s, 60s, 70s, it was right on par with what they had then. But
look good, man.
There were a lot of positive comments about the fact that they were involved in church, that they were taking up the offering, and that 2 of them prayed in front of the whole church for the offertory prayer. And I know I've mentioned this to you, but they've already been asking when they can do it again. So we're going to be getting with the parents Wednesday night and trying to coordinate doing that at least every 2 months. Probably be able to do it once a month with as many boys as we have.
Well, I love how your article, or I guess you would call it an article.
Yeah, I don't really know if I wanted to call it blogs or articles.
Yeah, we're still working on that. But I mean, it outlaid, young people want to serve. The bar in the RA emblem is RAs are workers.
Yeah.
Like, we're here to serve.
Yeah.
And I would love, here's an idea. I just thought, that picture that we took at the 11 o'clock service, I think that'd be great on the website.
Yeah.
Especially, tied into that article somehow. But yeah, no, I was very proud of them. I thought they did a great job. Okay.
Yeah. And so if you haven't read it, go check it out. It's a fairly short read, 3-4 minutes. It's almost not quite a devotion, but it's in between an article and a devotion. So you'll get some Bible out of it.
Yeah.
And again, it's a work in progress. We're going to be putting the dad jokes on there. That's what actually brought that up, is we're going to have a separate page on it with all our amazing dad jokes, and we're going to start having Sunday funnies. Sunday funnies.
Yeah, that was
so if you're not from the South, it doesn't flow as well because you're saying Sunday funnies. but Sunday funnies.
Sunday funnies.
Sunday funnies.
Sunday's funnies.
And whatever dad joke you hear here, maybe some that we haven't done yet on the show, we're going to pop on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Please share yours.
So,
I would love to hear anyone has.
But on that note, go ahead and click follow, subscribe, like. 5-star reviews would be amazing. And send us feedback, thoughts for shows that you have, ideas you'd like to have us covered topic-wise in the future. We're all ears. We've got a lot in mind that we're already working on, but we're always open for suggestions because you might send something our way that we just want to go ahead and jump on the bandwagon ahead of time with. And then the last thing, if you want to reach out to either one of us individually, we were able to get our own legitimate emails, if you will, through the website. But if you want to reach out to JT directly, now you can do that. It's jt@bowtiebaptist.com, and make sure the Baptist has an S on the end. Mine is Jody with a Y, Jody, at bowtiebaptist.com. And you can send us emails there. I'll be putting up contact us on the website. Yeah. You can just do it that way if you don't want to do it through a proper email. But
I think that's great, especially because you talked about growing this into maybe some type of devotional type stuff, and that just broadens our reach.
So we're working on things we can do right now. We're all doing it in spare time and out of pocket budget. So we're at the point now we're not concerned about trying to recoup any kind of money, but we have toyed around with the idea. I'll probably on my personal business website might start offering up the coffee cups. I've got one right here with the logo on it. Don't know how focused that's going to be. It's not very at all. But I'll probably will go ahead and put some of those up. But if we end up selling stuff or trying to do stuff for profit, it's only going to be so that we can improve the show, improve the content,
improve the reach.
Yeah, and hire folks that can
know what they're doing.
That can do what we have a vision for, like when it comes to graphics and because on the website we want every resource on that website. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm pretty sure that you agree, because I think we've talked about this before, but the idea is the resources are all free. Because if we can find a way to help grow the church and help grow people spiritually and in their walk with Christ, we don't want money to stop them. Now, that's not to say there might not be down the road a pay option of something, but if there is, there's still going to be a free equivalent on the website. But we got that done in under 10 minutes. So let's see how long this episode lasts.
Yeah.
Annie Armstrong. So we're going to break this down into 2 different sections. The first section is going to be about Annie Armstrong, the person. And then the second half is going to be about Annie Armstrong, the offering. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and show these. They're going to be just as blurry as that coffee cup was for those that are watching. But these are 2 pamphlets that you can get. If you go to anniearmstrong.com, you can access these. I should have looked before I got on here. A lot of this stuff is available as a free PDF download or free digital download. Most of these resources are free, though, through WMU through now. The first one is more for adults. It is just a little single page folded in half about the life of Annie Armstrong. This is more for adults. This goes through, this is actually where I got a fair amount of the information, bullet points for today's episode, but it tells about her work with African Americans, Native Americans, with mountain people, internationals, her involvement in the Week of Prayer and Christmas Offering, Week of Self-Denial, Role Model, Letter Writer, Fundraiser, Lover of Youth. Those are the headings of the different sections in this. The other, basically, it's just a mini 1-page biography. The other one is focused at targeting kids. It is titled All About Annie Armstrong, and it's a parent-child leaflet. It's got more cartoon pictures. It's more targeting children, obviously. And it actually, the cool thing about this, it actually gives you ideas of what to do with your children that will encourage the reinforcement of their learning and knowledge about Annie.
Yeah.
But
when I saw that picture, I just thought of today, Amanda, how she looked exactly. And I was wondering, like, where do you buy that?
Yeah. So, which, speaking of, that's Amanda is the WMU director at our church.
That does a great
and she is Annie Armstrong this month. Mm-hmm. Every Sunday, I think she's doing it. Mm-hmm. So she's getting up in the pulpit, and we weren't in there this morning because we had the younger children's church.
I yelled
so
at
I'll
her.
have to watch it on Facebook.
No, I was walking. I was like, Annie in the flesh. Or something.
But those of you that were able to watch our episode from Christmas know that we had a Annie or a Lottie Moon cutout, and that we actually had one of our RA boys that was shorter than her.
Oh, yes, right, yeah.
Well, we had talked about getting the Annie Armstrong cutout and having it here, but we would have had to stand up for that episode or got some bar stools because she was tall. She was not Lottie Moon.
Do you know how tall she was?
No, but we'll look it up here.
Was that a life size?
Like, yeah, that's life size. Those are both life size cutouts.
That's close to 6 foot, isn't it?
Yeah, she's probably taller than me. We were making fun of Turtle, which
that's one of our
RAs. One of our RAs. That's his nickname. When we learned about missionaries last year that work with deaf children, we let each child pick a nickname that they wanted to be, because we learned that they go by nicknames. Otherwise, they have to spell out with. Y'all don't make fun. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing, but they have to do the individual signs for each letter. Right. So if they do nicknames, it's usually a single sign, or it's much less complex. And we had our boys each pick a nickname, and then we looked up on American Sign Language how to sign it, and they loved it. And Emmett keeps asking me when we're going to do it again.
No, anybody watching that has RA programs, just try that. Let the boys come up with their own name and sign language. Yeah. And they love it.
And not only that, but I'm going to have to do it because I think I have at least 2 Jacksons, maybe 3 Jacksons in my class now.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah.
So the nicknames, they can't pick the same one.
They're going to stick.
Yeah. So I think we're going to let them pick with my class. I'm going to let them pick each year a new name, or they can stick with what they got. And the older ones will get to pick first. That way, if somebody else had one they wanted last year that's aged out of the class, they can get the one that they wanted maybe.
I made a mistake when I did that. This is a side note here, but I made a mistake because I was, I think I was still fairly new. Mm-hmm. I was trying to think of something funny. I was like, guys, I worked from home at the time, and I was like, we can just do lazy, So all it is this.
Yeah.
And I was like, perfect. That's easy for me to learn. Now the boys, they'll just look at me and just call me lazy all the time.
Well, they tried to.
That backfired.
Well, when they asked me what mine was going to be, I was like, I didn't even think about one for me. Yeah. And of course, they said, you should be, what's cop?
Oh, cop.
Yeah. And so we looked it up, and somebody said, oh, do 5-0. I said, how do you do 5-0? So this is probably not right, but one of the kids just they held up 5 fingers and then a fist. Yeah. So that was my sign language name for a little while last year. But I do have a couple of videos that I pulled off the WMU website, or actually the AnnieArmstrong.com. Pretty much everything that we're talking about tonight, the information either came from there. A little bit of it came off of the NAM website. A couple of other articles that I found online. One was from the Southern Baptist Historical Library and Archives.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So like I say, the information came from one of those sources. Yeah. Most of it from AnnieArmstrong.com, but including these videos, we've got 2 videos that we're going to show. The first is like a mini Annie Armstrong biography. And then the other one, once we get into the offering, is actually going into this year's theme. But we'll go ahead and show this, and then we will discuss some bullet points about Annie's life.
For almost 100 years, in big cities with 100 skyscrapers, in tiny towns with one stoplight, on college campuses and Native American reservations, in churches too many to count. Hundreds of thousands of men and women and boys and girls have made hundreds of thousands of life-changing decisions. Almost none of them knew her name, and yet she was there. Annie Armstrong lived more than 100 years ago. Only this one picture of her survives. History could have easily forgotten her. But Annie Armstrong is worth remembering. In the late 1800s, when most women had no voice, Annie was one of the first to speak up. First, for the urban poor in her hometown of Baltimore, and then for Southern Baptist missionaries around the world who desperately needed support. It was for these people that she helped start the National Women's Missionary Union. As its first executive leader, she gave women a platform in their local church, and in ways that they'd never done before. These women helped focus Southern Baptist attention on the hurting and the lost, and the missionaries trying to reach them. Annie wrote letters, 18,000 in just 1 year, and she traveled across America, encouraging missionaries and inspiring churches to pray, to give, and to act. She worked long hours, paid her own expenses, and refused to accept a salary. And in the darkest days of the Depression, right before she died, an offering was named after her. Today, the Annie Armstrong Easter Offering helps missionaries in the U.S. and Canada start new churches and meet needs through Compassion Ministries. Over the years, Southern Baptists have given more than $1 billion to that offering, and 100% of it, every penny, has gone straight to the mission field. There's still work left to do. The need is bigger than ever. And that's why, even though she lived more than a century ago, and even though only one picture of her survives, Annie Armstrong's influence lives on. Because today in North America, just as it's been from the beginning, anywhere a missionary is sent, every time a new church is born, anytime someone gives to her offering so that a lost person might be found, Annie is there.
Good deal. That was awesome.
Yeah. So we really almost don't even need to say anything, but there's some bullet points that we came up with. So we're not just going to kind of shoot off the cuff memory.
Just stuff I just
get
learned.
these right. Yeah. So
I just learned some of this stuff.
Same here. I grew up in Southern Baptist Church, 39 and a half years, Southern Baptist, and had no clue about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But
how inspiring is that? Like, to not take a salary, just pay your own expenses and to just do the Lord's work.
Yeah, and let me see. That's actually, I'm gonna skip ahead to one of these bullet notes about that. I'm trying to remember. We literally just watched the video, but I can't remember if it was included in there. But the reason she didn't accept the salary was because she would never give to the Lord that which cost me nothing, referencing 2 Samuel.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
2 Samuel 24:24. And
that's inspiring.
So yeah. But let's just go ahead and get into it about her. Like I said, we've come up with our bullet points that we're going to highlight on. And so just forgive us for reading, but we want to make sure that we get this stuff accurate and we don't misspeak.
Mm-hmm.
So
and go ahead and forgive me because I'm going to be asking you questions as I'm reading this.
Oh, I got you.
Annie, born July 11th, 1850. Now you said before she's pre or post Lottie Moon.
So as far as her actions with WMU, like at a national level, she would be, I guess you would say she was involved with it right around the same time, but she actually corresponded with Lottie through letters. And that's how the Christmas offering came to be, because we talked about it in the episode we had back at Christmas, but Lottie was writing home about the need for more missionaries in China and help, and asking for the Baptist women to do what other denominational women did in terms of fundraising to support missions. Well, I didn't know this until now. We were studying for this. Annie Armstrong is the one that made the Lottie Moon Christmas offering come to existence. And the reason she did it was to allow Lottie the opportunity to come home on furlough, because she'd been in China for and I've actually saw 3 different numbers. But I'm gonna go off of what the Baptist Library and Archives information said. They said it was 14 years before she had furlough. One other source said it was 13, and I'm going to make the assumption that it was the 13 years without furlough was what Annie found out about. So she pushed real hard to take up this Christmas offering and have the week of prayer in order to raise enough funds to send 1 missionary to China so that Lottie could come home on furlough. They ended up raising in that first year enough money to send 3 missionaries to China so that Lottie could come home on furlough, which would have been that 14th year.
Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
13 years without
in China, not coming home.
What a drive and just, faithful, pursuit mission.
And you're alone for the most part.
Right.
She was with her sister. Her sister was there, but she wasn't married, so it was pretty much just her.
Yeah.
But
we're going back, so she's 4th of 5 children.
Yeah.
Annie. Her father died at a young age.
Yeah. So she was 2 is what I was reading.
Yeah, no, that's right. So like what you were saying, and because what the clip we just watched, I mean, she didn't take a salary.
Yeah.
So
I
mean, and I think you mentioned she came from a wealthy family, just like Lottie did.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I read. They both came from wealthy backgrounds, but
what a great example. Missions. Everybody says money's the root of all evil. They forget that first part of that verse, the love of money. Because you can do a lot of good things with money, as you can see here.
Right. And now her mom obviously was instrumental in her being brought up in the church and staying, being taught about the church since her father died, obviously. But all of the different articles that I read, and there's actually books out about Annie. I haven't read any of them. Maybe by this time next year we can try and read a couple, and maybe next year's Annie episode we'll just do a couple of book reviews, maybe.
Yeah.
But she came from that wealthy family. Dad died before she was, you might as well say, before she was old enough to remember him. At 2 years old, you're not going to remember anything about anything prior to that in your first 2 years of life, once you get older anyway.
Yeah.
But her mother obviously was instrumental, and there were a lot of resources that I found and read that said that her mother was very involved in mission support at her church there in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, though, is how long it took her to come to salvation.
Annie,
yeah. She grew up in church, and now this was where I had the most conflicting information.
Okay.
Because a lot of the stuff that I read said that she came to salvation later in life. Pretty much everything was consistent across the board. She was 19 when she got saved. Okay. The issue is some of it said that it was during the Civil War, during a sermon that was made, that the pastor said, the quote is, "The religion of Jesus Christ gives peace in the midst of trouble." Now, the only issue with that is she was born in 1850. you're a history nerd like me. When did the Civil War start? 1861. It ended in 1865. She would have at most been 18. She would have at most been 15 years old in the Civil War. So the timelines don't add up.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is either there's inaccuracies with the age, saying she was 19 when it happened, or they're not talking about the Civil War. They were talking about the Reconstruction period, because that would have been going on. There would have been a lot of issues and a lot of, as it says here, midst of trouble. Now, granted, they're in Baltimore at the northern edge of the southern states that fought for the Confederacy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you read stories about how awful Reconstruction was, how much hate and strife there was between the Union soldiers that were stuck having to be however many hundreds and thousands of miles from home, depending on where they were. But I'm going to go with the WMU website, because it says that she converted in 1870 with her birthday being in July. It's very plausible that she was 19 when she was saved. So, and then that also falls in with the Reconstruction. But either way, doesn't matter. She was mid to late teen when she got saved. And then she immediately got plugged in at the churches. And had that original focus on foreign missions, like we mentioned with Lottie Moon, the connection there. But if you want to go ahead and hit those next couple of points.
Yeah. Well, first, some of this has kind of been on my mind. What you were talking about, one of the biggest critiques that I hear from my non-Southern Baptist friends is like, we just, because we don't believe a woman is qualified to pastor through Scripture. That they're not qualified, but doesn't mean God doesn't use women.
Right.
I mean, look at what God used through Annie Armstrong, Lottie Moon, the amount of salvations. I mean, the value. I mean, show that to, I guess, any Southern Baptist critic.
Yeah. And we've mentioned, I talked with a couple of people this past week about the term ministry. Ministry is not just limited to pastor. It's any type of service in the church. Like with Savannah, she's over the 2 and 3 year olds. She does the children's activities throughout the year. We've got Rachel starting to get plugged in with more stuff. We've got Amanda over WMU, which she's responsible for coordinating and making sure that these offerings that go to support home and foreign missions happen. We've got lots of women that teach Sunday school classes.
Women are absolutely essential.
There's that distinction, though, between a pastor and a non-pastoral role of ministry. You can't be mixing the two. I mean, they're clearly distinct from one another.
And that's where I think the world hates us in a sense. And but again, like we don't argue with Scripture.
Right.
However, God uses everybody in ministry in a sense. And it's just I've enjoyed doing these deep dives in the WMU and just seeing just the outreach and how many churches that plant churches. I just love that idea. And NAM and IMB, their mission there. But trying to find my next point here, Jody. I think we covered all. Unless you want to get into the offering.
No, go. I'll tell you what. You take that part about the being the president of the.
So she was the president of the Women's Baptist Home Mission Society of Maryland in 1880 at 30 years old. Now, the Women's Baptist Home Mission Society, is that what became WMU?
No. Yes and no. So it was the local version. It was the Maryland version. Like now each state has its own. But Maryland had its own first. And then it led up to the formation of like her working with other states comparable, similar
Mm-hmm.
entities and groups to form WMU.
Yeah. So, which was
Which
it was
that was
established in
88.
1988.
Yes.
1888.
Yeah, so it was proposed, I believe, she originally proposed it and sold it to the SBC in 1887, that is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was approved and it was formally established and set into place in 1888, is my understanding. If I'm misspeaking, correct me and let me know, send me an email or put a comment under the show notes so that we can correct ourselves in the next episode that we record.
Yeah. So what became the Easter offering? I guess, how did that?
So that was
that at that time or was that much later?
No, it wasn't long after that.
Okay.
So the Easter offering did come after the Christmas offering. So the Christmas offering was actually the same year that WMU was established, 1888, that winter. And then, let's see, the initial offering was in 1895, I believe. Let me skim down. Let me look down in my offering notes because I think that's where I had that. Yeah, so it's in 1895 was when they first started what is now the Annie Armstrong.
Yeah, so you're
Easter
essentially
offering.
like 7 years away from when that was first established.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which now she was named with the formation of the WMU, the National WMU. And for those not familiar with the Southern Baptist Convention terminology, WMU stands for Women's Missionary Union. And they have different levels of leadership. And she was put into, she wasn't elected the president. She was elected into what would be considered I don't think I wrote down what they actually called the leader then. And I'm drawing a blank on it now. It was, I didn't write that. I can't believe I didn't write that down.
Commissioner.
No, it actually had to do because of the letter writing. It was termed to do with that. That's why I didn't write it down because I was going to mention it from this. But let's see. Let me skim down to it.
While you're doing that, I'm going to look at this.
The first corresponding secretary. So that was the term they used for what the current executive director treasurer was. So her leadership of WMU for that period of time that she remained in that position, they grew pretty tremendously.
Yeah.
Put a lot of things into place. And one of the main things that they wanted to do was to treat foreign and home missions equally. She had a real big interest in serving, like I mentioned earlier when I was reading out of this little booklet, African Americans, Native Americans, mountain people, and immigrants. Now, one thing that I want to mention specifically, and I'm going to read this straight from this little pamphlet, so just bear with me, but this is in regard to her work with Native Americans. And that was actually one of the first things that they raised funds for, to my understanding, to my readings, with the group that they established there in Maryland, the Woman's Baptist Home Mission Society of Maryland, was to form a school, raise money to form a school for Native Americans in Oklahoma. And apparently one of her, I guess, phrases that she was known for was the Jesus way.
Yeah.
And this is just a little short, almost 3-sentence story about the Jesus way. So there's a conversation she supposedly had. So, can you understand about the Jesus way? She asked one tall Native American. I can if you will tell it to me, he replied. Her desire to lead others to faith in Christ was increased by a Native American's probing question. If you have known this so long, why have you not told us before?
Mm.
So it's almost a gut check even to us now. I mean, I've known the story since I was a kid because I was fortunate enough to be born into and raised in a Christ loving, God fearing, church going household. I don't have any excuse not to tell anybody.
Yeah. I mean, what a gut wrenching, I guess, just reality. You talk to, could you imagine having a conversation one day about your neighbor who's an unbeliever, and it's like, we're dead. It's like, why didn't you tell me this?
Yeah.
You would have spared me. And very, gut check.
Yeah.
Gut check time.
Yeah. And just the last couple of points about Annie, I'll just kind of blow through these kind of quick, and then we'll get on to the offering itself. But she's actually the one that proposed. We've already mentioned this about the Christmas offering. Annie's actually the one that proposed it be named after Lottie Moon. But she also proposed the first WMU week of self-denial for home missions, which is what we just talked about. And that was there in 1895. But it became the annual denomination-wide special Easter offering for home missions.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, they named that in her honor in 1934, which was 4 years before her death. But we've got another video. So I am going to mute us, and we'll get that cut on. And it is actually, now each year we have a theme, or I say WMU comes up with a theme for the offering.
Mm-hmm.
And this video is just a little bit about that theme.
These might be some of the greatest stories ever told, which is why we might just have the best job in North America. We get to tell stories about missionaries in the U.S. and Canada, stories that are so powerful and so amazing, we feel humbled to even be here doing this. Like, did you hear the story about the Marine sniper who's planning a church? Or the one about the missionaries who started a laundromat just so they could meet a need and tell their neighbors about Jesus? Or how about the church planter in Wyoming who's discipling new believers, then sending them out as circuit riders to tiny unreached towns all over the state? People call these missionary stories, and that makes sense. I mean, the missionaries are the ones serving on the field, and they're the ones on camera. But there's another main character in each of these stories you really can't see, not unless you look in a mirror. You might not realize it, but your faithful prayers and your generosity to the Annie Armstrong Easter Offering, that's where the fuel and the encouragement for these missionaries comes from. I mean, God is taking your prayers and gifts and planting this missionary family in a neighborhood where they can go into all the world without ever leaving their house. He's sending this missionary into what might be the most unreached community in all of North America. He even showed this couple how to turn a border town into a missions training center. Your support makes you a main character in every one of these stories. Stories of how God is building His kingdom. He's using thousands of missionaries. Some you'll hear about, most you'll never even know. And He's using you. Together, we're sharing the gospel, the greatest story ever told, with people who need to hear. Together, we're stepping into the story.
All right, so that is the video. They actually played that at church today, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll go ahead and say you asked me why that video was playing in the background. Mm-hmm. I Googled it real quick. What the goal last year was 75 million.
Okay.
That was the national goal.
Yeah. This year's national goal was 78 million.
Yep. So they went up 3 million. I think. What did Lottie Moon? It was a comparable increase last year for the from last year
Am
to
I
this
thinking-
most current year, wasn't it?
I don't want to throw out a figure because I might be just.
I don't remember.
I might be
Yeah.
way off. But I mean, you're talking. Was it not a couple? Was it? Was
I-
it was
I
over
know-
100, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I know it was the goal for last year for 2024 for the Christmas offering
Mm-hmm.
was more than the 2023 goal, but it was less than what was actually collected in 2023.
Mm.
If that makes any
You're
sense.
talking about not just our church. You're talking about.
I'm talking about
as a whole.
nationally, yeah. So
Yeah.
now the offering itself, we're not going to get into the politics behind some people's concerns about NAM. That's not what we're talking about in this episode. What we're talking about in this episode is Annie Armstrong, the person, and the Annie Armstrong Easter Offering for North American missions.
I like this year's verse. 3 John chapter 1, 7 through 8. It was for the sake of the name that they went out, receiving no help from the pagans. We ought therefore show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for the truth.
Yeah. So that's this year's verse that's associated with the offering. And we've actually already covered most of the information about the offering.
Mm-hmm.
But something that we kind of
so-
want to emphasize is this offering is done by WMU, not now. Just like Lottie Moon, it is done by WMU, not the IMB.
Now, the notes here we have it at 50. The Annie Armstrong offering accounts for roughly 50% of NAM's budget.
Yes,
Is that right?
that's my
Do
understanding.
you want to
yes.
share where you've got that figure?
Okay, so that was on the NAM website.
Okay.
I think it might also be on the anniearmstrong.com. Not 100% positive. Can't remember because I looked at so many websites working on getting this stuff. But it was showing that 50% of NAM's budget comes from Annie Armstrong.
What was that?
The bulk of the other 50%, I don't think it's all 50% of the other, but the bulk of the other 50% comes from the cooperative program.
And you also, I mean, because we've had this conversation before, does 100% go toward missions? And you found articles and links from NAM and whatnot that said it does.
Yeah. So
for me, if 100% goes to missions, then that should handle any transparency or any concerns that people may have.
Yeah.
If that is the case.
Yeah, and we decided that I think coming into this episode, that is probably going to be covered in a future episode when we bring up some of the concerns that people have about NAM. And we're going to kind of I'll go ahead and tease with that we're not necessarily in agreement with all this stuff that we're reading and hearing and seeing. We're not necessarily opposed to understanding and agreeing with it with the proper amount of evidence, for me anyway. Sorry, Scotty, I just hit my mic with my hand. There's your second shout out for today. But I want the full information before I make a definitive decision. And without going down any rabbit holes, I say that to say this about today's episode. If WMU says that 100% of this goes to North American missions, I have no reason to not believe.
I'm not just going to. Yeah, I'm not going to just not believe you at face value.
Yeah.
You got to show me something that disproves that.
Yeah. And now, if there are issues, concerns that somebody has with NAM, that's fine and well.
As any logical person
goes through
would.
WMU.
Yeah.
So
we're not saying one way or another.
Yeah.
But...
And again, we'll talk about it more in depth in a future episode. But one of the things we're going to talk about then is at what point do you not take it at face value and not trust that what is being said is the truth?
And that's
honestly,
that's
once if you get to that point where you're not trusting what's being said, there's much more to unpack than just where the money is supposedly going. But like I said, that's another rabbit hole we're going to go down in another episode. For now, though, I personally am still at the point where I'm going to give to Annie Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the Annie Armstrong money is going to the right place. I don't have any proof to tell me otherwise. If it's not, then that's between them and God.
And again, if 100% goes to missions, then whatever problems you have with them shouldn't matter at that point.
Yeah. And just the breakdown, I will throw this up there to give the breakdown. Now, this is just a graphic that they have there on the Annie Armstrong website, and some of you are going to look at this and say that doesn't look like what I saw the other day. If you looked at it, I actually got a text message of this. You and I both did of this, and it didn't add up to 100%. It added up to 99%. Now.
That was trending on X. I've seen.
Now, I've heard people make the comment the person had one job. You and I both have one job too.
I still fell at it too.
We're still gonna make mistakes, but I emailed them about it because I was curious where what category the other 1% went under. Does it take sending the leadership up to 4? Does it take missions education up to 5? It was actually, they had the evangelism and compassion ministry erroneously at 12%. But I mean, they got back with me immediately. They fixed it. They said, thanks for the heads up on it. All these people making fun of them, just send an email. Stop making fun of them. Or, just think about it. How many, when you mess up and make an honest mistake, how many times, people are making fun of you behind your back instead of just coming up and telling you.
Yeah,
like a booger hanging out. Yeah, JT, you got a booger hanging out your nose. You don't actually, but
tell me an hour into the episode.
Yeah. But it's help ourselves, help each other, help one another.
Yeah.
Don't make fun of each other. We're still going to be guilty of doing that. But we got to try that. We got to do better.
Yeah.
So it also, for those who can't see the graphic, we'll read what each of these there's 4 different categories. The first is church planting. That receives 80% of the Annie Armstrong offerings, the funds from the offerings. Now, what that is the financial funding and benefits for planting missionaries, training, recruitment, ministry assistance for equipment and outreach, missionary housing, and missionary care. You want to take the 13%?
Yeah, well, evangelism and compassion ministry. I was just going to ask you, does the Formula One stock car, does that come?
That race car?
Is that a part of evangelism?
Yeah, for those not familiar, apparently at Indy,
they had an Indy Formula One stock car. I'm not a NASCAR guy, so I don't know.
Whatever Indy car would be called.
And that took a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had a problem with that.
Yeah.
And, I was just curious as I was reading that. I mean, I'd imagine that's evangelism.
I would think that would be more marketing. I wouldn't think that would come from
marketing's not on here.
I know. So that's because this is just.
Okay. So
I'm thinking marketing would be a NAM thing.
That's a separate from NAM.
I could be wrong, but I mean, we still don't.
But
know
this is 100.
Yeah.
This is the.
This is the Annie Armstrong breakdown. Yeah. So, but what the evangelism and compassion ministries is defined here is it's the evangelism resource materials and events, financial funding and benefits for missionaries involved in compassion ministry. Oh, you didn't see that?
No, I didn't see that. I was like, I would have asked that question if I saw that.
For the audience, you can't see us. I'm actually right up against the monitor squinting because this is tiny on my computer screen. So Sending the leadership is 3%. If you want to let them know what that is for the list non-visual audience.
Let me squint here.
Yeah.
Okay. Mobilizing events, leadership resources and events, funding for short-term student missionaries.
Okay. And then the last one, which is the final 4%, is missions education. And that encompasses resources and training focused on mission field education for recruitment and mobilization of church planting missionaries. So that's the breakdown of it. And again, it does add up to 100% now.
But again, this funding, I mean, this is all NAM.
It goes to NAM, yeah, and then NAM is the one that divvies it up amongst. So it was NAM that came up with that pie chart, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And he's not patting my leg.
Oh gosh, yeah, no,
there's
the heater.
There's a heater.
Warming up my hands.
Yeah. So
it's cold today.
It is. Yeah. And yesterday was nice. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway.
Welcome to South Carolina. But so the breakdown, I am basing it off of what I found. The breakdown is provided by NAM. They give the money, WMU provides the money to NAM, and then NAM uses it for their missions. Now, one thing with NAM is there is some confusion with folks not familiar with SBC about who NAM serves, what areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's the North American Mission Board. North America includes what countries?
Yeah, U.S. and Canada.
But like on a map,
North
America includes Mexico. Yeah, but Mexico is not served by NAM. Mexico is served by the IMB. So this money goes to church planters and missionaries in the United States, Canada, and the U.S. territories.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody curious about that, you can find out more about that on NAM's website. But
it's funny because the reason I said that because when we were talking about it, Luke got it because we said that. You said that to the lads in our race this week.
Yeah,
and Luke was like, "Why ain't Mexico in the North American Mission Board?" I was like, "Tell you the truth, brother, I don't know."
Yeah,
I didn't think that IMB. Why is IMB in that? Do you know why that is?
I don't know. We need to. I'll email WMU and ask them.
Yeah.
They would probably know, or I'll email NAM. Somebody.
Email
back. I email all of them and see if we get the same answer from everybody. But if I were to take a guess, it would be think back to the history of it. It used to be called the Home Mission Board. So Home Mission Board you're thinking home, your home country, United States.
Mm-hmm.
How that expanded to Canada, I don't know. I guess because they are predominantly an English-speaking country, even though they also speak French.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Again, that's just a theory. We absolutely haven't done no background into it.
No.
But we'll try and get an answer before the next episode. So that's the breakdown of it. Now, like we already mentioned, it was first established in 1895. And it was at first called the Week of Self-Denial for Home Missions. So Week of Self-Denial for Home Missions. And it's converted into a month-long collection at Easter time.
Week long?
So we have a week of prayer for North American missions. And this is the guide. Most Southern Baptist churches have these. You can get it on the anniearmstrong.com website. I'm pretty sure that I saw a downloadable PDF version.
Okay.
If you are following us on social media, then you've already seen JT mention about this. If not, check out anniearmstrong.com. This is pretty cool. You want to explain what this is?
Yeah. So from so each day of the week we have a different missionary. This is the week of prayer, right? And so it's very similar to what we do in our RAs. We have a designated missionary for the month, and we kind of go through and different ways to pray for specific parts of the ministry. This is very similar here. So each day of the week, you have a different missionary as well as territory. So like on day 1, for example, we're in Utah, and we'll just go through the missions and the missionaries and how specifically we can pray for them.
Yeah. And one thing, I just thought about this. Otherwise, I would have looked into it before now to try and have an answer. But with RAs, one thing that they do with WMU is they have a prayer calendar they put out, and each day is a different missionary to pray for. Mm-hmm. But with RAs, obviously, it's just on a Wednesday. Each week we have 2 different, I think it's usually 2. There's somebody from NAM and somebody from IMB.
They kind of alternate, right?
Well, so for the month ones that we study, it does. But the ones I'm talking about are the ones where they've got the birthday prayer calendar at the end of the month in the book.
I was just gonna
say, normally we pray for them on their birthday. So I'm wondering if these guys that we're doing this week, if it falls on their birthdays.
Yeah.
I just thought about that.
Well,
if anybody knows, let us know in the comments.
And just so everybody knows, a lot of these missionaries will wait until their birthday to do something, I guess, bold or new ministry or whatever, because they know they're going to have just an influx of more prayer because it's their birthday. Yeah, just because of WMU.
Yeah, even as surgeries.
Like surgeries.
Yeah. They'll wait for their birthday. The rest of us, ain't no way we'd want to have a surgery on our birthday, but they know that their name is out there for prayer on those days, and they're going to be showered in way more prayer than they normally have during the year on that particular day.
Yeah.
But again, that resource, that prayer guide is a resource. Check it out, AnnieArmstrong.com. They have a lot of other resources. The 2 videos we showed, they have several other videos. I think there's actually a video for each of these missionaries and church planners on the website. Also, you can not just read about them in the prayer guide, but you can watch about them. Also, there's just a plethora of information about Annie Armstrong, the person, the offering, and where the money goes, how the money's used, how these missionaries are working in North America and serving God. But if you're not Southern Baptist, or if your church is not collecting Annie Armstrong, but you want to give to Annie Armstrong, you can do it through AnnieArmstrong.com. I think there's, give online, AnnieArmstrong.com, or you can mail a check to NAM. If you go to AnnieArmstrong.com, they'll give you you can get the address of where to mail that to.
And but any questions, feel free to use our brand new emails.
Yeah. So
we'll be happy to send you a link.
Yeah. And if you have questions that you want answers about, let us know. We can't guarantee that we'll have the answer, but we'll do our best to find it.
One of us knows somebody who knows the answer.
Yeah.
Or at least can point us in the right direction.
Yeah. But again, this has been a good show, coming in right at an hour. Every time we think it's going to be short, it ends up being right at an hour.
We told your wife we were going to be 15.
Yeah. So, but it's been a good show, I think. Hopefully it's been informative for everybody. I know I learned a lot preparing for it.
Yeah.
So, next week's episode, still not really sure what it's going to be, but it'll be good, whatever it is. We have a couple of topics. We just got to decide which one we want to do.
Because if you're following along with us in our Bible plans, my goal is to have at least once a month, I guess one out of every 3 or 4 episodes. We do spend time on just the Bible reading episode.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea, because right now our Sunday school class, so we're about halfway through Numbers. So in the Old Testament books, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks per class.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the idea of once a month we maybe just do a book. That's at least for right now. That's how the reading is laying out.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm good with it. And I actually had somebody in Sunday school this morning said that she enjoys when we talk Bible.
Oh,
So
I enjoy talking.
we'll do. We'll have to figure out that. Maybe we'll kind of alternate episodes. 1 week about a ministry or a topic with the SBC. The next week it's a Bible topic, whether it's the what we've been reading in a year, or some other scriptural topic. Because we're not afraid to talk about controversial subjects.
If it's in the Bible, I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah. But yeah, if you've got a specific topic, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to dig in. We're both nerded out on the stuff, so we'd love to dig in for you.
Oh yeah. So that's all for this week. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the show, following us, have notifications turned on, and let some friends know about us. We're slowly getting more people watching and are listening. If some friends tell you that we're not on whatever podcast platform they listen to, let us know and we'll figure out how to get it on there. I've been having issues with it going on the iHeartRadio app. But I don't know why they sent me something, but it was just a bunch of letters, random letters and numbers, which means nothing to me. Knowing that I can show it to a computer programmer and they tell me what it says. But right now, we're also working on getting it attached on the website. So right now there's a link. So if you go to the website, tell somebody they can go to the website, Bowtie Baptist, again, that's with an S, plural, Baptist.com. And they can click the link and it'll take straight to the video feed on Spotify.
Send us an email. I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
I'll send you multiple links.
Yeah, we'll get it to you. But
thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.